everyone, and welcome to Wisdom Chats. I am Susie Verde, your host, and tonight we have again special guest. Oh my God, I'm so excited. His name is Braco, which I know means friend, good friend. We should talk about that with our guest in a minute. But Braco Pobric. I hope it's correct. Pobric. Braco is an incredible personality. He is doing some amazing work in the field of positive psychology. And for those who have been following my work, you know that I'm a great fan of positive psychology, and I have been practicing it in my work, in my writings and videos. And Braco is a master in the field. He has written the best-selling book, Habits and Happiness, How to Become Happier and Improve Your Well-Being by Changing Your Habits. And he's a founding member and chief happiness officer of the Institute for Advanced Human Performance. He's a certified positive psychology coach, a certified NLP practitioner, and former globally certified trainer and business coach for the Dale Carnegie training. So without much ado, welcome, Braco. I'm so honored to have you in our show.
Thank you, Susie. So my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So, Braco, the idea of habits and happiness is, in the first moment, alien to a lot of people. And I guess it's because a lot of us think of happiness as something that just happens to us. It's like, well, I wish I can be that I can be happier. I wish that this year things will go better for me. I hope that something magical will happen that will change the circumstances of my life. And what I hear you saying with your message is, no, hang on a minute. Yes, you can have it all, and you've got to do the work. And this work is related to what you do every day in your life, equal your habits. And you share so much knowledge and research about the quality of our habits and the idea that if we want to have a different life, then we have to adopt different habits, positive habits, and really make choices. So I would like to start by asking you a very basic question. You know, how can habits really influence the quality of someone's life?
Sure. Well, if you really think about, Susie, we are the habits. I mean, everything we do, right? From, if you want to succeed in your life, regardless what area, you want to improve your relationships, you want to start exercising, you want to start meditating, you want to, make $100,000 more. I usually don't like to say more money because if I give you $1, that's more money, right? You want to lose some weight, you want to gain weight. Everything that we do is really depending on having our habits. Some of us have what we call bad habits, and that's why maybe our health is not so great, our relationships are not so great, maybe we gained too much weight, maybe we lost too much, whatever that is, right? And some of us really understand that and can truly improve our life by changing the existing habits and or introducing the new one. See, the one little secret is that once you establish the habit, regardless what that is, regardless if the habit is good for you or bad for you, you basically create this new neural pathway in your brain. And that neural pathway can never be deleted. Now, what do I mean by that? This is the reason that people have difficulties changing their habits, right? And there are so many ways that, based on the research and my own work and applying pretty much everything that I researched, I applied in my own life. If it worked for me, I put it in the book. If it didn't, it's not there. It doesn't mean that it will work for you, everything's in the book. But what it means is that not only that I did a lot of research, and then I talked a lot about research, but it's really on top of that applying all the research. So like I said, you cannot, this is the reason why it's so hard to change your habits, because you have that neural pathway that really cannot be deleted. And the only thing that you can really do is change the habit, introduce something new that will kind of override that pathway. I'll give you one example. I used to drink a lot of soda. It would be the Diet Coke. And most of the time I'm looking out because I'm looking at my backyard. So you would go out, you cut the grass. My door was open. You go swim, you go in the garage. Soda was sitting right on the shelf. Pop the soda, have a drink. I feel better, right? So here's that habit loop, right? That we can maybe spend a minute. So what's really the habit loop? So something always triggers it. There is a trigger that kind of starts your habit. In this case, I'm getting sweaty, I'm tired. That triggers me to start my routine, which is basically pulling out this Diet Coke and having a little drink. And then, so there's the routine, that's the routine. So you have a trigger routine, then you have a reward. In this case, you feel a little better, right? You got a drink, you got cool, so you're good. So now, by knowing that it's going to be hard to replace that habit, it's going to be hard just to say, I'm not going to drink Diet Coke anymore. Here's what I did, and you can really apply this in many different things that you do, your listeners. What I did is I knew the trigger is going to be the same. I'll be out, I'll cut grass, and I'll get sweaty, I'll need a drink. I'll also know that routine needs to be the same, that I need to drink something, reward will be the same. So here's what I did. I replaced that habit with drinking water habits. But I made the environment to be exactly the same. I would open up the fridge. The Coke wasn't there on the same shelf. I stocked up a bottle of water. Everything was the same, except instead of Diet Coke, the water was there.
Right.
Pull out the water. So you always have to think about, how do you replace your existing habit? How can you replace it with something different? And what is it that you really want to do?
Yeah, I have actually a lot of points that I would like to explore with you about what you said, because it's interesting when I read in your book the story of you replacing soda for water. It's interesting because the first thing that came to my mind was, oh, I wish it was lemonade.
Okay.
No water, but like fresh lemonade, which could be very healthy as well. So, which leads me to the question of, is it important that the new choice contains some element of pleasure, that you see that option as, yes, a replacement, but a replacement that can bring you perhaps more health. In case of water, yes, it's good. You're getting hydrated in the hot weather and stuff. But how about the principle of pleasure? So if you're not interested in water, for instance, then would that work the same way?
Yeah, it will work the same way. The only thing is that we got to be careful, because sometimes to create a new habit, let's say you want to start exercising, right? Or you can even give me an idea what you want to do, and we can walk through the real life example, whatever that is.
Right.
Think about while I'm going.
Okay. Okay.
So let's say you want to start exercising, right? Is there a pleasure there? Honestly, in the beginning, no. You don't want to, I'm up at 5 a.m. and I exercise every morning, 5 a.m. Now, how did I start? Seriously, I swear to God, how did I start? And I've been doing it for the last 6, 7 years. Now, how did I start this? So there's something many different approaches, something called small wins. So basically taking small steps, something called 10 seconds rule from Sean Aker, which is basically, if you want to do something, make sure it's close as possible to you.
As easy as possible.
Exactly, make it as far as possible. So how did I start exercising? I also know that based on research, if you do something, just a small wins, you get a little bit dopamine, you feel better. So The first morning that I was up at 5 a.m., what did I do? Night before, I put my running shoes next to my bed. I got up, I put my running shoes, I went to the basement, I looked at my treadmill, I go, I'm done for the day.
I wish I could go back to bed.
That's it. I'm done for the day. I got a little bit of dopamine. And why did I, in every day, I would just do little by little.
Right.
I would go 1 minute, 2 minutes, because I knew if I do little by little, I will be able to create that habit. If I said immediately, I want to exercise, this is why a lot of people don't create new habits. Because they say, I know I got to exercise at least 30, 40 minutes a day, but I don't have 40 minutes a day, or, you know, I just don't want. So we got to really create these small wins if it's a big habit to create.
I was totally amazed with the research that about 40% of what it is that we experience in life is basically a product of our habits. So 40%, can you imagine that? It's a lot. It's almost like living life in an autopilot without even realizing it. Because if you are basically doing things just because you've done them forever in the same way, then you're not even stopping to think if those habits are serving you, or if it is that you're just repeating them out of pure familiarity, or because you're sitting in your comfort zone. And perhaps it would be a little scary to move out of that space. So, yeah. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, this really is important, knowing the research that, you know, when people say, well, I just wasn't born happy, my parents were not happy, you know, my grandparents, I just have so unhappy genes. I was like, fine, I'll give you that. So based on research, we know that about 50% is based on your genes. Now, I always tell people, if you read any research, my book or anywhere else, always keep in mind that these numbers are numbers in the research based on sometimes thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people, but it doesn't mean it's 50% for you. I have no clue. Maybe it's 48, 47, 52, right? But it's in that range.
Right.
10% is circumstances, where we live, how we live, you know, the things that we couldn't change in our life. And then, yes, 40% is really the things that we do every day. And we can look at the habits. And it's really, this is why you see some people who grew up in projects in the hood and are extremely successful. And you see other people who grew up in the richest home and have a terrible life, right? Because of that 40%, because of what they do on a daily basis.
So what happens, for instance, if we take into account a more subjective level, a more, shall we say, personality level? And we could say, well, you know, some people are more geared and more attracted towards some sort of success, and others are not. So perhaps, you know, absorbing habits that are more geared to success and happiness might not be as appealing to other people that are geared towards success. But I would say here that even if you are not somebody who necessarily feels attracted to attain more or make more money or be more productive in the world in a way, you could still create habits that would benefit, say, even your meditation practice, your inner world, your studies, and even the way you deal with other people, and that you find your voice in the world and do what it is that it's your own unique call. In other words, it's up to you to decide what is really meaningful to you, and to create a very specific way to actually accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I know, well said. Here's a really big thing when I teach habits and happiness and authentic happiness. It's really, like you said, it's really all about you. It is, you have to have a big reason, a big why in order to do something. Until you have that, you're not going to do it. Yeah. So if you tell me you want to lose weight because, you know, you want to be healthier, you want to look better, it doesn't matter. These are not good enough reasons. Everybody wants to be healthier. Everybody wants to look better. That's not good enough. And the reason I'm mentioning this particular one about weight loss, because about 6 years ago, I was 45 pounds heavier. So I'm 150 now, I was 195. So 45, yeah. And so what happened is I knew that I really needed to lose weight. But again, I had the same reasons like everybody else. Well, I need to be healthier, I will look better, I'll walk more, but these were not good enough reasons. And I started digging. Always look for your big why. Why? Like a little kid. Keep asking yourself and write it down, right? And I kept asking myself until finally clicked in me, until I found my big why. And in this case, my big why was this. I lost my parents. They both died when they were young, both of them, mom and dad. And I know the reason they died so young, because they were just taking care of us instead of first taking care of themselves. And I realized that it was really my responsibility to be as long as possible, to be around my son, to help him, to hopefully be with my grandchildren. And it's really my responsibility to be around, to help, to be around him, right? When I found that why, that was it. 6-7 years ago, that was my big why.
It really matched your values, right?
Right.
Values on like family values, your role as a family, leader or someone that could really influence your children, and perhaps even avoid that they go through the same suffering that you did by losing your parents early. So exactly. that on your world it had the level of values, really.
And I'm just giving this, not everybody will find, huge reason, but it has to be as big as possible. And that's why people don't change, because there has to be, so it really, people change for two things. One is pleasure, mostly. The other one is pain. Until it becomes a huge pain, and maybe, I have a lot of coaching clients, not a lot. I only have, as many as I can handle, because as I also work as an executive in a large financial firm. That's really what I do for a living. This is my calling. Right. So I had a client who basically said to me, I know I'm not going to change until I do my blood work and doctor tells me how bad results are going to be.
Oh my God.
But at least he's aware that the pain then will drive his change, right? So it's either pleasure or pain. We have to look for one of those two.
Another way of saying this in some other circles is through love or through fear. It's what it is that you do want to accomplish versus what it is that you want to avoid.
Yes.
And I love the idea of adopting change because of your level of consciousness. Because you became so conscious about something that is important on a personal level or even on a global level. Some people are so identified with certain causes that perhaps that becomes a very important a value in their lives, and therefore they can implement change.
Right. In reality, the only constant thing is change, and we got to be able to be flexible. We got to be able to get out of our comfort zone as much as we can. And otherwise, we'll just keep doing what we keep doing.
I love the idea that we're introducing here about, so many people talk about change. The world needs to change. Things need to change. Everybody needs to change. Your husband needs to change. Your children needs to change. Your students need to change. And really, the only thing that is on your reach is yourself.
The only thing you can change, yourself.
Is the only thing you can change. And you can only change by creating habits that are supportive of that change.
Exactly right. Yeah. Right.
So one thing that I was really also intrigued on your book, Braco, was that the fact that you're doing a lot of research these days on dopamine, and how it is that it's possible to tap in our reservoirs of dopamine at will. And dopamine is a chemical that is released when we actually feel good. So, and then you feel good, and then that reinforces a good habit. So dopamine plays a very important part on creating new habits. But you know, at one point you actually shared that you were very excited about your work right now in researching how it is that we can go to that bucket and kind of get some dopamine dose
Yeah,
every day.
right. Exactly right.
How can we do that, Ratso?
So yeah, we don't need to go to drugstore no more. From now on, we can just get our own happiness chemical.
Oh,
But this really is a cool. There's just so much research, and this was one, as you mentioned, and that I was really, really excited about when I was doing research. And that is that basically we can release our own dopamine. You know, I gotta share the story. Years ago, as you know, I live in Hamilton, it's close to Princeton, and now I have a coaching office. I have an office and a studio in Princeton. So years, and I have a lot of friends in the area. So years ago, we went. This was when I just started doing a little research. Wasn't really close to doing the book, and and so we went to a little party with all of these were like Princeton PhDs, a couple of great friends, and some people that I didn't know, a great group of people. And I started explaining how I create my own happiness. And I'm gonna tell you now what I said, but my wife goes, "Are you crazy? Like these people will think you are totally nuts." I was like, "I don't care." So I said, basically, and I did write about it in my book, that the night before I go to sleep, right? So I go to sleep, before I fall
Okay.
asleep, I basically create that alarm that I call wake up with a call, wake up with a smile alarm, right? So when I hear the alarm, by the way, these days I don't even have an alarm anymore because I'm up 5 a.m. That's it. Like
Right.
I
Right.
don't I don't but
Yeah.
back then I did. And when I would hear the alarm, I would smile. And people would go, really? Like who's happy at 5
Yeah,
a.m.?
5 o'clock in the
Right?
morning.
So of course I'm not happy, that I'm gonna have to get up at 5 o'clock. But I knew that when I smile, I knew that that little trick will give me a little bit of dopamine, right? And
Mhm.
that I know that I will feel better, right? I know that it will have better day. Often I will, even when I used to teach Dale Carnegie, and now when I teach programs, before I go in, especially if it's like large conference that I do a lot of large speaking engagements, I will go, you know, to I will go to the restroom. I'll look at myself in the mirror, make sure I'm dressed well, and I will smile, right? Because I know, it will
Yeah, 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 yeah.
give me some happiness chemical, make me feel good, and will say, yeah, you can get it. Go out there, get it, buddy, right? That's really important. It also increases self-confidence. I mean, just so many things. And I have a lot of clients who try this wake up with a smile call. And I got to tell you, a lot of people tell me it's working for them too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I guess because of your NLP training, I just happen to be NLP trained as well. I would say you're creating a state, right? You're
Yeah,
like
exactly.
going back to that excellent state
Yeah.
and reproducing it over and over again, and there you go. And then your physiology follows,
Yeah.
which is, this is a wonderful concept that most people might think that is artificial, especially people that are more connected to the therapy world. But I really would like to suggest that there's a lot of ways in which you can break states by introducing action. As a matter of fact, you mentioned that in your book, right, Bratso, about a client of yours that was going through an episode of depression. And then he was able to actually detect the moment in which, some low or negative emotions, I should say, were hitting him. And he was able to precisely detect when and how they were starting to really manifest. And at that specific moment, he would introduce action and he would go for a run. And that would release a dopamine dose, and it would actually make him feel different, better, much, much happier, in peace. And so by doing it more and more and more, he realized that he was able to neutralize the negative emotions to the point that he was not even experiencing them anymore. And I think that's a remarkable advance, isn't it, on science, that we are able to detect that.
Absolutely. I think honestly, sometimes it's complicated to explain, but habits are pretty simple. And I know I have like a bunch of examples in the book and little forms, but it's basically you really first you have to understand your habits. So you would say, you would create your kind of daily thing. What do I do from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep? So I wake up at this time, then I drink a coffee, I watch TV, I leave for work, whatever it is, just list all of these things, right? And I get home, I watch TV, I have a dinner, I eat peanuts, I eat junk food, right? So write all of these things down. And then you look at the list and you go, what are the things that I want to keep? Right? So yeah, I want to get up at 5. I want to, what are things that you don't? Well, I really don't want to eat this junk food or peanuts, right? So what triggers me to do this? And then you start analyzing. You go, well, you know what? I have a dinner and I sit by the TV, and what happens is I usually have a candies on my, a coffee table, and it's just kind of, I don't think about it. I just watch TV. Yeah. Again, I'm just giving one example, right?
Yeah.
So you find the trigger and you go, okay, hold on. I know what triggers it. Okay, how about if I remove candy from this coffee table and hide it, because you don't want to throw it away, right? You're still going to want sometimes candies, right? But I hide it, so it's a 10 seconds away from me. To give you an example, every night, my wife and I, after dinner, have a piece of dark chocolate, 1 square, right? And that chocolate years ago used to be on the first level in the house, in the kitchen, right? And guess what? Like,
now it's in the rooftop.
10 minutes now it's in the cellar. I'm lucky. I have a wine cellar in the house. So the chocolate, it's been there. I swear to God, we keep chocolate. I mean, not the same chocolate, right? For like 5 years, and it's been always there. And after dinner, I go downstairs. I cut 2 squares. I come up immediately so that I don't, stay there to eat more.
Yeah.
I bring 2 squares and we eat each one, and that's it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to consciously create not just a habit, but the environment to support your habits.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, I hear a lot of discipline and self-regulation, which I think that when it's done for a good reason, not because it's about, it's taking pleasure out of your life, but it's because you love yourself so much that you care about what it is that you're feeding yourself, what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're watching, and the things you can do on a daily basis to support your flourishment as a human being. So it gets very practical on this level, isn't it? I think that's
it does. And you know what, I think it's really important when people listen to this and we talk about so many different things, that are so many habits that we want to change, we have to be really careful, right? So pick one. And this is why people change life, not because very few change life overnight and they change everything in their life, right? Very few of us. Some people do, but that's really hard, right? Nike, just do it. It's hard, right? But what we do is, here's what happens. You start changing a little. So I started waking up at 5 a.m. Then I started a little exercise. Then I started a little meditation, right? Then I started, so all these little things, and all of a sudden, what happens is we build that self-confidence. We build one habit, we'll say, oh yeah, I can create another one, right? And what you can also do, you can do what I call connecting habits. So you can basically create 2 or 3 habits that the end of one habit triggers another one. And
yes.
To give you an example, right? So you will exercise, and then you will, by the end of the exercise, although the research now shows the other way around than what I did 5 years ago, but and then you will maybe start meditating 5 minutes, and then at the end of meditation will trigger something else, right? So you can create a couple of habits that the end of one habit will be triggered for another one. So you can also do that to help yourself.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe schedule a massage at the end of the week to reward yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're being so good on exercising, right?
I mean, absolutely reward yourself.
Yeah, creating ways to say, I love myself. I'm going to give myself this treat because, oh my God, I really stuck to what it is that I was going to do out of respect for myself. Not because anybody's telling me to.
Right. No, I
Yeah.
think I think rewarding yourself is absolutely key. The only thing we got to be careful, what is the reward? Meaning that,
Yes.
if you want to lose weight and you're going to reward yourself,
Don't go
at
and
the
eat a
end of the
bar of
week,
chocolate.
yeah, with like huge meal, then it may not be great. But you want to buy yourself, go to Broadway, see the show, or whatever that is. Take a walk
Yeah.
in the park.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
really. You don't have to have. This is not about.
Go for coffee with a friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anything that's special and it's involves a sense of beauty and sharing and pleasure.
it,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's important also for everybody for you to know what makes you happy, because again, forget about research, right? What is that makes you happy, and what brings you pleasure, and you need to
Wow.
create more of these moments.
Oh
You
my God.
need to
Oh my God.
create more of your happy moments. I mean,
I love that. I have to warn you, Braco, we're coming to the close of our first block. And I would love to start part two of our interview by finding what makes you really happy. This is so on the game for my audience now. And
sounds good.
so I just would like, for the ones who joined now, I'm talking to Braco Pobric. He's the author of the book Happiness, Habits and Happiness. We are having this amazing conversation on habits and how to install them in your life and basically have a happier daily existence. I would invite you all to join part two of our show. Brad, so thank you so much for joining us today. I am Susie Verde. We'll continue this interview on part two. Thank you for watching.